what would be some of those first steps that you would advise high school athletes at any level to do if college rowing is something that they're interested in pursuing?
Yeah, I think they have to do something that's true to them for sure, right? Like everyone's not going to be on Instagram, making sure that they've got videos uploaded or making sure that they've got something about like their most recent PR. Like that's not for everyone. But I think that, like you have to do what is authentic to you because if you try to be someone on, the day you meet the coach and like that's not who you are, it's going to be really hard to keep up that front. Right. So being genuine, and just knowing that, the ball is also in their court. I think a lot of times we hear like, oh, like I want to like we want to find like the right fit, right? I personally don't want to be anywhere that I fit in, and I don't want my recruits to be there. I want them to add. I don't want to be where we are right now. I want to move forward, right? So like, do you add to the place that you're looking at? Do you make that place better, right? And I think that that's a really important part of the decision making process. And also, when you look at these schools, what is attracting you to those schools? Like that, like I said, like they have a brand. What is it that's making them stand out? And do you have those same characteristics, right? Because if those are the reasons it stands out to you, then you're going to probably want to stand out with it, right? So just making sure that it's, whether it stands out that it's in a city and, like city's not your vibe, or it stands out like that they have a lot of resources and that overwhelms you. Like you've got to know those things, right? Because if you end up there for 4 years, the impact is a lot bigger than 4 years, right? I always say to recruits, like it's not a 4 year decision, it's a 40-year decision, and the network that you're going to build and the people you're going to meet and the coaches you're going to be coached by are going to have a really long impact. So like make sure that you understand what's happening and who you're selling yourself to be, upon, all of those interactions so that you can get the best experience.
And I talk a lot about expectations for a recruit, right? Like, so it's like, like what are some or the expectations that are asked of someone who is a Division I athlete, especially at a school like yours where you guys are very competitive. Like it's a very competitive environment, and for at any Division I level, right? Like, you're trying to row, and position yourself to hopefully, you know, medal at conferences, win races, whatever it may be, right? So, for an athlete, having that expectation, I think, is very important. Like where it's like, understand what you're getting yourself in for, understand what, it's not just about, hey, I'm going to reach out to Delaware, this school, and have a great time being a part of it. Like, it's like, try to add value. Like you want to be a contributor. You want to be a 4-year contributor. You don't want to just get recruited and, it's a 1-year thing. And then, now you're enjoying, your next 3 years, but rowing isn't a part of your life. Like there's a reason why we all get into rowing. And hopefully it's not just to get recruited. It's to go to a school and add value.
Yeah, it's not just like I think that there's a lot of anxiety and stress around like the commitment, right? Like and for the wrong reasons. It's not just, getting wearing that hat, wearing that t-shirt, signing on the dotted line for a photo, right? A commitment, right? Like, do we understand what that means to be committed to something, right? So to be committed for those 4 years, to be committed to the process, to be committed to the process afterwards, right? Like understanding what it means, having your own identity and being a student athlete, and what it means to change that as you graduate, right? Like all of that is part of the commitment, and it's something you have to think about and make sure that you're on board for completely.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. It's like again, I loved how you said it's not a 4-year commitment, it's a 40-year commitment, because rowing is something that, you want to be, again, how it sets you up individually, but also the organization that's bigger than yourself. Like, and, that's going to be something that you're going to continue to be a part of for the rest of, hopefully, your life, right? Like you're going to continue to
Yeah.
come back and watch those races. And it's a little bit different when you kind of go and it's a different experience when you go for only 1 year and you don't, you made the wrong choice because you maybe didn't do your research, or you felt you wanted something, but really that's not what you truly wanted. And
For sure.
for you, as you're sitting on the sitting across from the table, or just, I guess in today's world, right, in the Zooms and, phone calls, all right, like with these conversations that you're having with athletes, how do you, like what you just said, where like it's like, again, that expectation, or being a value add, to a team, what is that conversation like with these recruits? Like how do you kind of, demonstrate like, hey, like we want you, but we also want an athlete who wants to come in and add value to our team and be someone who wants to be in that first eight or that second eight and work their way up and show up every day and put their best foot forward. How do you articulate that message? How do you kind of sell what you're looking for or to an athlete?
At practice, I think it's easy, right? I think it's like, where do you see yourself in this room? Where do you see yourself in this lineups? Who moves the way you move? Who has the energy you have, right? And hopefully they're the leaders within the room already, right? And it kind of starts to tell them a little bit about themselves. But I'm really clear about, like, I'm going to be who I am, throughout this entire process, and this is who you're going to get when you're here. Is the person you're representing now who I'm going to get when you're here, right? Like, everyone's going to have good days, everyone's going to have bad days. Are you going to be ready to go when I'm pushing you? What's beyond the limit that you're aware of, right? Like, are you able to do you want to learn and do you want to grow? Like I said, like, that piece of being that student of the sport is something that comes up in those initial conversations, right? And what do they love about rowing? Like, I hope it's, race day, but I hope it's so much more than race day, because they're going to get a lot more out of it if they have that investment past what the answer is that they think I want to hear, right? Like, of course, I want to hear that you're shooting for the varsity, but I also want to hear that, you want to be a leader on this team, right? And I also want to hear that you understand that everyone on this team is a leader, and making sure that, everyone, you have to understand the vision, and you have to understand the expectations pretty early on, because when you hit the ground running with 50 other women who have already done it, you want to make sure that you're on board so that you don't get left behind.